Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. The subject of today's video is protecting my bike, the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650 with ACF50. It's one of the first videos that I did on the channel that I personally did that KJ didn't do, but I've refined the process a little bit since then, and also that video was terrible and the audio was horrific. Prior to that, I've given the bike a wash. Not amazingly well. I rely on the ACF50 to get into nooks and crannies and look after it. It helps lift dirt off. One little point, I'm experimenting. I usually use paraffin for cleaning the chain. I'm doing the chain now at the same time just because I'm making a load of dirt and clean the wheel and stuff at the same time. Experimenting with using diesel because I've run out of paraffin. I cleaned them both bikes with diesel before going on the trip. It doesn't seem to clean quite as well as paraffin, and I think it sits slightly lower on the refinement chart than diesel when I've looked at diagrams, but any experts about that, let me know. So in theory I think it should be less potent than paraffin, so probably cleans less well, but should also be less damaging. Not that I found paraffin damaging, I've used paraffin for ages, but I've just always got diesel around for my diesel heater and stuff, so I'm just experimenting with that. Again, not suggesting you do. I'll report back if I know any adverse effects in the future. And the second point, once I've done all the ACF50 and I've dried the diesel off the chain, I've just swapped lubricant. I've not used this yet, but it came out top on Bennett's test. John Milbank has done an in-depth test on chain lubes, and I think there were a few that came out top. I can't quite remember, but this was certainly up there as one that he recommended or came out top on his test. And he tested a 50 something different lubricant. So thanks John, I'm going to give that one a test and see how we get on, and again I'll report back in the future if I don't get on with it. I've been using Silcoline for quite a while now, so we'll see how we get on with that. So next thing, preparation for the ACF50. So what I used to do was try and cover up the brake discs and brake pads with tissue paper and such, but I've since realised it's just hard to do it effectively, and the chances are some ACF50 will creep past somewhere, so it's just easier, I find, to pop out the brake pads. So first part of doing that is pull out that clip. You will then need parallel pin punch. So I've got a parallel pin punch and a nail. So yeah, parallel pin punch to take it out. So knock out the pin. It's getting them back, I think, on the back one that you need the nail. I can't quite remember. So pop that out it came easily. You want something clean to put your brake pads on, and they just effectively fall out. What you want to make sure is you don't pull on your brake lever when you've removed them. So it's still greased up quite nicely from when I had them out the other day. So I'll do that front and rear. I'll show you doing the rear as well. So that's the front ones out of the way. I'll go do the rear, put them on here, and I'll move them away from where I'm going to be spraying. I knew there was a reason I needed a nail, and it's because you can't get in properly to this back one with a parallel pin punch because my exhaust's in the way. So again, pop out your pin, some pliers. Tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in at a bit of an angle. It's a bit naughty, but just to break that loose, and then I'll finish it off with the nail. There we go. And I greased that up only a couple of weeks ago, so that came out easy. And again, the pads will just fall out. So we'll pop them out of the way. It's also not a bad idea to remove your pads prior to cleaning your chain if you're quite messy cleaning the chain, because you'll notice that the cleaner, which is diesel in my case, gets all over, and you'll tend to see spots on your disc and stuff anyway. So it's good to get your brake pads out before you get in depth at cleaning your chain. So I've got the chain all clean. I've just blown it out with the air gun off the compressor. I've not totally dried it yet, the diesel off the chain. Now I'm ready to start ACF50, and like I say, I've removed the brake pads, the seat's off, the side panels are off. I won't obviously avoid areas like blowing it into your intake. Safe enough to blow into your exhaust as long as you're not blowing it right in. I intend to just blow a bit up the rear of these exhausts because they're only mild steel, just these cans, just to help keep them in a bit better nick. You don't need to dilute this at all. Give it a bit of a shake. I don't know whether you really need to shake it, but give it a bit of a shake. I use a paraffin gun, and as long as this is warm enough, I find, and I mean, to be fair, even if it's cold, I've never had a problem, but I tend to just either, if it's quite a warm day today, and so it'll spray fine. If it's a colder day when I'm using this, I'll tend to just warm this up a little bit, but definitely no need to dilute it with anything. It's already pretty thin and runny, as you can see, but thick enough to do its job. And compressor wise, I just use a cheap Stanley compressor that came with a kit with the this hose, this air gun, a paint sprayer and this paraffin gun, and they're only about, I think they tend to hover around £99 at Screwfix, so check those out. I didn't buy one for years, and then I bought one a few years ago, and it's been one of my most used tools. I use this air gun mainly off it all the time. All sorts. You can use it for drying your bike off, blowing dust off. I use it for cleaning the chainsaws out. Just anything that just requires a bit of cleaning into the nooks and crannies. It's just absolutely fabulous. I should have bought one years ago. On top of that, it's obviously a good source of air for blowing up your tyres, particularly on the bigger stuff like the tractor and stuff. It'll handle that fine. Land Rover, etc. Handy just to have that there on hand to do your stuff without going to the garage. So if you're ever in any doubt of buying one of them, even if you haven't got loads of room for one, pretty compact, them little Stanleys, just get one and get it tucked away. You'll find I have it permanently plugged in, this hung up on the shed wall, use it again and again. So enough talking, on to the spraying. Now I said enough talking and on to the spraying, but I thought I'd just cover ACF50 a little bit more in detail. For those who aren't aware of it, I mean, I was quite surprised Silver Fox, Graham aka Silver Fox, my mate, hadn't heard of this before I told him about it. It's a anti-corrosion formula that was developed for the aeronautics industry, and it says it kills corrosion on contact. Applications, they're all refer to the air industry. So it says interior skin sections, micro switches, avionic components, solenoids, motors, cannon plugs, PC boards, throttle cables, hinges, battery terminals, rotor head blades, antenna mounts, strap packs, gearboxes, thrust reversers, wheel hubs, rheostats, circuit panels, trim drum. Directions: shake well before use. I'll also shake up the stuff that I've got in the sprayer. Spray or wipe a uniform coat of ACF50 directly to the area to be protected. Apply a heavier coat to areas where corrosion is present. 2. Reapplication of ACF50 may be necessary after solvent cleaning, contact with certain chemicals, acid, etc., or where metal surface has been severely damaged by abrasion. And then caution: contains mineral oils and petroleum distillate. Do not apply directly to liquid oxygen fittings or friction operated mechanisms. If sprayed into ice, flush well with water. Blah 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 blah. And I found on motorbikes, and I say do your own research, but you can literally just spray it everywhere. I spray it on, once I've removed them brake pads, I spray it on absolutely everything, even onto brake discs, and then I clean the brake disc with brake cleaner afterwards. So you'll see me doing that in a second. Now it's probably too late for me, all the crap I've breathed in over the years, but when doing a lot of this, I do tend to wear a mask because it does hang around in the air, so it just makes the process a lot nicer and less headaches afterwards. So just from that little bit, you can probably see it floating around in the air, so definitely worth wearing a mask. And I'm also just going to put these on because I could just feel a bit contacting my eyes in, and you don't want all that crap in your eyes. As you'll know, I spray quite a lot into the spoke nipples. It's quite an area where you can get corrosion on wheels. In the past, when I've had tyres off on bikes, you've seen where the nipples have corroded on the rim if they're not very good quality. These ones I think are very good quality, so they should be alright, but it's worth getting that in there. Keep them loose and lubricated. Not loose, but when you need to adjust them, hopefully doing stuff like this will help preserve it for the future. another pint midway. This is a 4 litre bottle, which for the average motorcyclist, particularly if you only got one bike, will last you forever. I use it on, I spray it on the Land Rover chassis and stuff. So it's quite expensive. 4 litre bottle's about £100, but like I say, it'll last you forever if you've only got a few bikes that you want to use it on. You'll see I'm being very generous with it on this. I rarely do a full strip down like this. I tend to just use it occasionally if I'm just giving it a bit of a wash off, just spray it around the engine so it just creeps into all your nooks and crannies to keep them in good nick. So I'm going very much in depth today, hence why I'm using a lot of it. As you will have seen, put that absolutely everywhere, all over the electronics, switch gear, into the wheels, all over the engine, absolutely everywhere except inside my air filter. Even sprayed it, like I said earlier, up the back of the exhaust, so just avoid blowing it into your intake. I'll then just let that settle a bit, let it creep around. It's got very good creep characteristics, so it'll really just find its way into all the nooks and crannies and drive out any moisture and keep it protected from corrosion. So I'm starting off with one clean microfiber, and I'll start with the paintwork so I'm not dragging any grit or dirt from lower down and scratching stuff. A mate of mine who's Welsh, so even tighter than me as a Yorkshireman, I think keeps one of his cloths in a bag with ACF50 on it so he can top it up without costing himself more money on ACF50. So Ben, if you're watching, sorry. Another point, obviously be careful because it's slippy stuff. If you've got it on your tyres, just give them a wipe off, and on your grips and things like that, or your foot pegs and stuff. Like I say, I've been quite liberal with it, so it's got a little bit everywhere. So I'm always a little bit dubious about like wiping it off the tank and stuff as to how much actually stays there, but seems to keep protecting it. So but obviously you don't want sticky stuff. It's not super sticky. People do say that it can attract dirt, and it does in certain circumstances, but the main thing is that it's got into the nooks and crannies. And I also like the sort of patina that I have on the cases and stuff. I don't like to polish them up, so I like to use this kind of thing instead of like polishing things. The main thing I think is to get the majority of it wiped down off of any controls and stuff that's going to get in your way, and then on your engine and stuff it just wants just your cases, anywhere that you're going to sort of be rubbing up against, get it cleaned off and just wiped down. And then anywhere else, not particularly worry about it. Anything that's got on your exhaust, I mean, I'll rub the exhaust over because it'll help just pull off any dirt that's on there that I've missed when washing it. But anywhere that it shouldn't be, in terms of, well, it's fine on hot stuff, it'll burn off where it needs to, but it'll keep protecting things. So you'll see when you start your bike up, you want to do it in a well ventilated area, because all the really hot areas it will smoke off on your oil cooler and your exhaust and things like that, and your engine eventually. So that's it folks, I've finished wiping around the areas I want to wipe. The main areas I've focused on are the casings, top of the engine, exhaust, just to wipe any dirt off. I've still got to clean the discs off with some brake cleaner. This is a brake cleaner that I use. So I've got to clean those off and get my brake pads back in, get everything else put back together, but then she's done and protected for a while. One point I would make is I wouldn't bother with it particularly unless you are going to spray it with a compressor, get it in a proper size bottle. I wouldn't bother with one of the aerosols. I bought one of those aerosols the first time I bought it and it was disappointing. It comes out almost like, it comes out very stodgy. It doesn't atomize anything like what you've seen here, so it won't get into all the areas unless you just want some for spraying on a cloth and just doing some odd areas here and there, but I think that defeats the object of it. The reason I like it is to get in properly into all the bits of the nooks and crannies around the engine and stuff that you just can't ever get into to clean, and then it just helps keep the corrosion at bay. But yeah, I'm very happy with how it keeps bikes. I've not done it enough on this one, in fairness. Should have done it more. Hopefully you've learned something from this video. If you've got any questions or comments, pop them below. I've had a few subscribers recently commenting saying glad you're back, etc. I have been doing a few videos, but I think some of them haven't been appearing on people's feed and stuff, so hit your notification bell and stuff like that, subscribe, like, all the rest of it, and just check out. I'm trying to do them weekly on release Monday afternoons now. It's not always the case, like when we've been away I've missed a couple of weeks, but I've let people know in the community section when one isn't going to be coming. We'll probably have some more videos coming with Graham, aka the Silver Fox. Got a few things to go over, some of the stuff he makes and various bits and pieces. He seems a popular addition to the channel, and it's quite fun making them together, and also making them when KJ's helping as well. It's much better to do things together than on your own. So, yep, thanks again. See you all soon.